It was a hot, sweltering day when my friends and I conceived of a plan to get revenge. See, there was a guy in the neighborhood that needed to get revenge. And this guy, his name was Rick. And now Rick was a mean, rotten scoundrel. See, Rick was a guy that wanted to be in control all the time. He was a tall man. He had tattoos from his shoulders down to his legs. He was muscle bound, worked out every day of the week. And he made sure everybody knew that he was the boss. And if anybody crossed him, they would hear his lip yelling from mouth to mouth. And he had to be taught a lesson. And the lesson was going to be taught in one hot summer day. One day we were playing football, and as always, the game got a little bit rough. And my friend, being a little bit tumultuous to try to prove a point, had a rocket arm that made Dan Marino even blush, threw a Hail Mary to me to go for the touchdown, but it hit Rick's yard. And it just so happened that Rick was standing in his front door, waiting to see any incrimination come on our behalf. And as that ball landed, he sprouted to action. He came out of his front door, blasted open, and said, "I thought I told you, never hit my yard. You did it again. That's it. I'm going to make sure you guys go to prison, and you're going to stay there a long time." And we said, "Rick, we didn't hit your yard that bad." "Yes, you did. You hit it, and you knew you did it, and you did it on purpose." And he said, "Who did it?" And we looked around for the culprit, even my friend who threw the football. But soon we said no one did it. And then he said, "That's it. I am determined. One of you punks, before this summer's done, will go to prison. I'm making sure of it because I've had enough with your mischievousness." Now the neighbor across the street, Steve, saw what was going on. And he came to our behalf and said, "Rick, come on. These are a bunch of kids. They're not doing any harm to you." And he said, "Steve, you stay out of it, okay? I'm handling these kids. They need discipline." And he said, "Rick, you go home and you leave these kids alone. They're not bothering you. You're just going ahead and making trouble." And Rick, seeing that he had no fight against Steve, bristled, looked at us in a menacing way, got back in his house, and shut the door. We were angry. We wanted revenge. So we hatched a plan. We planned that we were going to get a giant rock. And we were going to take a rock and throw it in Rick's party that he was having that weekend. And when the rock landed in his house, it was going to ruin his party, and it was going to ruin his reputation, and it was going to embarrass him. And we were going to enjoy it. So we hatched a plan. My friends scavenged all around his backyard and found a beautiful big round rock to throw into Rick's yard. And as he was aiming to throw the rock, he said, "How should I throw? Should I throw it here?" He says, "Just use your intuition." And finally, he got in a comfortable position where he threw that rock so high, it felt like it was going to hit up into the heavens. But finally, it landed. And when it landed, we heard thud. Ah! And as we ran, we heard commotion. And we were laughing and giggling. And we said, "High five, we did it. Rick is going to pay." And he did pay. And so did we. As we were leaving my house, Rick was looking for the culprit. Someone had to pay. He knew someone threw the rock. And he just had a hunch who did it. As we were leaving my house and walking down the street, he came up to my friend and I and said, "Hey, you know who threw that rock? Someone threw the rock, and someone's got to pay." And we said, "Rick, we don't know who threw the rock. Sorry, Rick. I'm sorry it happened to you." And he said, "You threw the rock, and I got you. Now you're going to go to prison because you hit a rock with a kid, and now he's bleeding to death in my backyard." And we said, "Rick, are you serious?" He says, You see, I told you, you're gonna go to jail. We said, Rick, please, please, no, it's over. I'm going to the police, and this is gonna be done today. And he drove off, and we were terror-struck, panic-struck. We ran around as if we were blind, hapless men on fire, looking to be extinguished. We saw our futures dwindling before our eyes. We saw prison stripes as uniforms. We saw ourselves being in prison cells in the police cars. We saw that the football games that we would play would be no more. We saw that our parents would hate us forever. So I wanted to give a common plea to Rick. I went to his house, and I had one last plea to say, Rick, please, please, have mercy. We didn't really mean it. And he says, no, you didn't mean it. You meant it with the football game. You meant it when you walked on my yard. You meant it when you go ahead and threw rocks in my window. You meant it, and now I got you. I got you. And then we just thought, it's over. We're done. Revenge was no more. We weren't going to get revenge. He was going to get revenge. But it come to find out that the person who came out of that house wasn't a child, but it was a person gray of life, gray hair bound, old man, must have been 60 years old, bloody scalped, smiling at us kids saying, are you the little bastards that threw that rock? And we said, sorry, sir. He says, you know what? You dumb kids. You know what? We don't want to give them any prison. Rick, stop it. They're not going to prison. These are just a bunch of dumb kids. Let them go, Rick. He says, what? What do you mean? Listen, these kids have been doing this for the whole summer. They need to be punished. He says, Rick, calm down. It's okay. I'm not dying. What are you talking about? It's okay. I'll get a couple stitches. It's fine. And the police officer says, are you sure about that? He says, yeah, I'm sure. Let him go. It's okay. And Rick was white heat, angry, looking at his friend as though he were Benedict Arnold, thinking, how can you do this? How can you let them go? But you know, we gained our freedom from that man. And we learned a valuable lesson from that incident. And we learned that though revenge is sweet in the beginning, it could turn very bitter in the end. And though perhaps we did get revenge, it wasn't worth it. And we learned never to do something like that again. Thank you.